Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Muy buenos días con todos. Bienvenidos a esta segunda sesión. Em, en breve me presento, pero mi nombre es Alejandra Ceballos. Un gusto poder estar con ustedes y terminar el curso. Entiendo, son 4 sesiones. Esta es la segunda sesión. Bien, así que bienvenidos. Hi, hello, good morning, morning. Permítame. Leyendo en lo que se van conectando a esta sesión o los que de pronto nos verán en la grabación. En ese tema, bueno, ese curso, pues, Teaching Your Learners o enseñar pues el idioma inglés a niños o a jóvenes, entiendo la primera clase, la primera sesión que estuvieron con la profesora Milagros, ¿verdad? Fue para ver primero entender quiénes son los Young Learners o a quién nos referimos con Young Learners, ¿verdad? También les mostró algunas herramientas digitales, ¿no es cierto?, para utilizar en las clases con los más pequeños. También veo que hablaron o conversaron sobre los diferentes learning styles, ¿no es cierto? Y la sesión del día de hoy de pronto es un poquito más teórica, como su nombre también lo dice, que vamos a hablar sobre algunas teorías del desarrollo cognitivo, a decir verdad. Importante conocer esta parte de información, como les decía, teórica, porque nos permite entender mucho más a nuestros estudiantes, ¿sí? Entonces es lo que vamos a ver esta sesión. Bienvenidos a los que se están conectando ya. Estilos de aprendizaje nos pone en el chat, sí, 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 exacto. Bien. Bueno, solo recordarles ustedes ya están familiarizados con el tema de lo online, ¿no es cierto? De participación en el chat, yo los voy leyendo de cuando en cuando, nos vamos em, retroalimentando por ahí, compartiendo experiencias. Entiendo aquí, pues, sabemos docentes de inglés de niños pequeños, de adolescentes, de pronto también de adultos, o futuros docentes que están también en la preparación para hacerlo, o de otras carreras que se están animando también a enseñar, pues en el mundo de la enseñanza de idiomas tenemos casi de todo, ¿no? Entonces, bienvenidos a todos. De pronto también que no solo estén conectados desde Perú, sino desde otros sitios, lo que nos permite la virtualidad, bienvenidos. Y por favor, utilicen este medio, utilicen el chat para compartir sus experiencias. Todos aprendemos de todos, todos tenemos los mismos contextos, no todos tenemos los mismos aprendizajes, entonces entre todos nos ayudamos, ¿no? A mí me encanta hacer estos cursos porque también me llevo mucho de los participantes, así que les agradezco que siempre estén ahí comentando en el chat y yo los voy leyendo de cuando en cuando para opinar o comentar también al respecto. Sí, a ver, lo voy leyendo. Morning, morning, it was good. Ajá. Sí, eso entiendo. Hay partes entre hablar inglés o hablar en español. Yo también he llevado esos cursos antes con EduRed, estoy de vuelta por aquí. Y también como que lo variamos entre ambos idiomas. ¿Por qué? Porque también hay, como les comentaba, no todos ya están dentro de la práctica docente. Pronto hay gente que recién está empezando, está a la par de aprender el idioma incluso, ¿no? Entonces, como que también se me pide el otro lado, ¿no? No tanto el inglés, o a veces lo hablo muy rápido y por ahí alguien no me entendió. Entonces, entre por ahí uno y otro, ¿no? O el resto de sesiones también basarlo en inglés, ¿no? Combinamos, porque también, según he visto la grabación o el material de la profesora Milagro, también combinamos entre el inglés y el español. Entonces, un poco lo que vamos a hacer también, ¿sí? En esa sesión y de pronto en la siguiente sesión, ¿no? Para abordar a todos, que todos nos puedan entender, comprender, porque al fin y al cabo acá el curso es invitación para, sí, los que somos docentes de inglés, pero también los que están de pronto iniciándose en ello, ¿sí? Em, bien, algo más en el chat. Good morning, morning. Yes, good morning, everyone. Ok, listo. Entonces, me presento por aquí. Em, Mi nombre, como les mencionaba, yo soy Alejandra Ceballos Mora, soy licenciada en Educación en la especialidad del idioma inglés em, y enseño a toda edad, de hecho desde muy chiquititos, ¿no? Niños, very young learners, actually, luego niños más grandes, primaria, jovencitos y adultos, abarco a toda edad. Em, Tengo una maestría en psicología educacional en la especialidad de psicopedagogía cognitiva y desarrollo psicológico. Ambos lo hice en Cayetano, en la Universidad de Cayetano Heredia, el pregrado y el post. Em, Tengo el CAE, el FCE y el TKT de University of Cambridge, ¿no? Que es la universidad que nos certifica a nosotros, profesores de inglés, ¿no es cierto? ¿Ok? Ya me contarán ustedes también cuántos del aula o de esta clase, ¿no? Cuentan con estas certificaciones, ¿ok? O el CPE, que es el último, ¿no es cierto? Aunque, bueno, igual soy especialista en crianza respetuosa y disciplina positiva, soy educadora en disciplina positiva por Positive Discipline Association. De hecho, muchos de los temas, y cuando hablamos de Young Learners es bastante importante conocer sobre ello. Soy diplomada en neuropsicoeducación en la Universidad de Buenos Aires, tengo un diplomado también en parentalidad, apego y desarrollo de la infancia. Estudios troncos en traducción e interpretación, si por aquí hay traductores e intérpretes que terminaron en la rama de la enseñanza, bienvenidos también. Y bueno, ya hace un tiempo atrás, de hecho desde pandemia, desde el 2020, ya no solo enseño inglés, yo tengo ya 12 años enseñando inglés a toda edad. Y desde el 2020, de la mano de la Municipalidad de Lima y diferentes instituciones estatales y después ya privadas, dicto esos cursos, charlas, capacitaciones a docentes, directivos y también a familias sobre el tema de disciplina positiva y demás. Y bueno, por ahí está en stand-by, pero creo contenido en una página, en redes sociales, en Facebook, en Instagram, por ahí también me pueden encontrar, ¿no? Ahí se llama ale.tabla, ¿ok? Ok, aquí estamos. Bien, entonces dándoles la bienvenida para conocernos de pronto, no creo que ya me encuentre con alguien de los que he enseñado hace unos meses, hace un tiempo, por ahí siempre me encuentro a alguien lo conozco desde hace unos años virtualmente. Primera vez con ustedes, así que bueno, nada, bienvenidos y como les decía, los que están conectados recién de pronto, voy a tomar de esa sesión hacia el final sobre el tema de utilizar inglés-español, es lo que también quería acordar con ustedes. Entiendo, se mezclan, ¿no? Podemos ir explicando en inglés, también en español, las preguntas o las imágenes van a estar por ahí también en inglés, en español, eh, para tratar de abordar a todos. Si me dice a partir de la próxima, hoy día lo vamos a tener como que mezclado porque he puesto información tanto en inglés, tanto en español, o las preguntas tanto en español también. Si la gran mayoría me dice everything in English, bueno, lo hacemos toditito en inglés y yo no tengo ningún problema a partir de la próxima sesión, todo, ¿no? Los textos, porque también como decía, veo que la sesión pasada estaba también como que combinado, ¿no? Y la idea no es hacer español y leerlo en inglés, porque es inglés, inglés, ¿no es cierto? Así que eso depende del grupo. Mi grupo anterior de ese mismo curso, de hecho, era partido, porque tenía gente muy jovencita que estaba recién iniciando con la enseñanza, entonces también necesitaban un poco del español. Entonces depende, en realidad, de los grupos. Ustedes me dirán, o al finalizar puedo hacer como que una encuesta por acá, ¿ok? Y, y de ahí ya me responden, no hay ningún problema, ¿sí? Ok. So, let's go over here. Ok, ¿cómo se aprende un segundo idioma? Ustedes vieron la semana pasada, puedo empezar en inglés. You saw last week when you were talking about first who the young learners are, right? Which kind of group, then divided into very young learners, actually. Then we have learners, young learners, and then the adolescent, which is also included in a group of Wiley. No, actually, that's the name of what the University of Cambridge gives to this group, no, okay, of students, let's say, the Wiley, and actually there are Wiley examinations, no? So since kids, you can certify your level of English, right? But what you checked previous lesson with teacher Milagros was, okay, who are young learners, right? Who are considered as young learners. So just to remember, please, could you write in the chat, who are young learners? I mean, how old are they? Is there also a division within the group of young learners? Yes or no? Could you please write in the chat? Who are the young learners? How old are they? Is there a division between ages? Yes or no? Who can be considered a learner? Probably, right? Okay, right, please. I will wait for your answers in the chat. The students are going to school on kindergarten, okay? Ages around 4 to 12, Children up to 12, okay? Is there a division? Can we have subgroups of young learners or not? Okay, Connie says young learners are from 3 years old or below that age till 18. So here we've got different answers actually, right? Some of you say that young learners are considered up to 12 years old, but then we have up to 18 years old. So which one is correct? Is a young learner considered before the 18th or only up to 12? Remember, because if you say up to 12, what about the students from 13, 14, 15, 16 years old? Are they adults? Okay, Mercedes says below 12 years. 4 to 7, 8 to 12, 13, 17. Okay, that's an interesting kind of division groups. Yeah, thank you, Lizzie, right? Okay. Good. Yeah, so teens, yes. Young learners, as you check the previous lesson, okay, are considered, as the name says, right? All that period of time before we become adults, yes? In general, some institutions consider up to 12 years old. That is actually until we finish primary school, right? Okay. And others will consider up to 16, more or less, okay, where actually we finish school, right? And they are all young. And after that comes adult learners, right? And some group of young learners, we have like subgroup, and you mentioned, I think everyone mentioned since 3 years old, right? 3 or 4, what? Okay, because that's the usual age where kids go to school, no? All right, kindergarten, right? But we will see that in some minutes. I have it on one of the slides. But what about kids from 2 years old, 1 year old? Are they capable of learning a second language or not? Will they be considered also in the group of young learners or not? Another question. Are we talking about learners as just going to school? I mean, we consider a learner only if we have this formal education at kindergarten and school. Yes, okay, Sisi says yes. What about the rest? Is a learner only the one who goes to school, to a kindergarten? Okay, Carolina says no. Yeah, also Connie says no as well. Right, no, because we are kind of like programmed to say, yeah, young learners start since 3 years old because normally they go to kindergarten since 3. But what about the little ones? Or what about not 3? What happens with a student doesn't go to kindergarten up to 5 years old? Like, for example, in my case, I'm a mother of 2, and my oldest son just started kinder at 5, the age of 5. We didn't enroll him before. But was he considered a learner? Right. Yes. Okay. Children are all the time learning, of course. Yes. Yeah, they are toddlers, but they are very young learners. Okay. Inside the group of young learners, we also have the very young learners, which comes the kindergarten group, is we can say as one way. Okay. Can they learn since they are 2, since they are 1? What about if they are recently starting to speak the mother tongue? Can they also start speaking a second language? Can they start learning a second language? What will you say? We will see that in the following slides, okay? Pretty young learners. Okay, yeah. Pretty young or the very young learners, actually. Okay. And as I introduce myself at the beginning of this lesson, and you will notice, definitely, you will notice this during the classes, during the sessions, the information that I will share with you is actually based on the neuroscience evidence, because I am a neuroeducator, I will use all the neuroscience evidence to explain what we're going to see during the sessions, okay? Because actually that's the best way we can teach, because okay, we can understand better our students, okay? So you will see that during the lessons, everything like starting from the development of the brain, okay? So this first part, as we're talking about today of developmental theories, here I've got a question you can see, okay? How do we learn a second language, or cómo se aprende un segundo idioma? And I will give you the link in a minute in the chat, where I would like you to share in this Padlet, okay, in English or Spanish, feel free please to do it in any language, okay, any of both. And how do we learn, or how does the brain learn a second language? Notice that the question is a bit different, but probably you discussed on the first class with your teacher Milagros, no? Because I think you were talking about how kids learn. And definitely the main answer would be playing. Okay, kids or young learners learn by playing. Yeah, we know that. But here I would like you to answer, since how the brain, okay? I'm talking about the brain. At any age, I'm not only talking about young learners, in general. Okay, you can think about theories, you can think about approaches, you can think about different researchers, okay? I know psychologists, linguistic ones, or teachers, biologists, that from many years ago, that's where it started, studying brain, starting the process of learning, and so on, okay? So give me a sec that I will share the link of this Padlet so you can write your ideas there. Okay, I just sent it into the chat. Okay. This Padlet, I will share it in a sec. Okay. So you can open and start submitting your answers. Could you open it? Okay, yeah, I can see some people are already writing. Okay. Please submit your answers here on this Padlet. Do you know how to use it, right? Okay. Click on the sorry plus button over here, and you will just share your answer. How does the brain learn a second language? Okay, I put here. You can think of different theories or approaches, the researchers, and so on. Yes. Let's have the minutes, and then let's check together what you have written. Okay. Okay, there are 2 comments already. Maybe you can also add your names. Yes. Okay, the brain learns while listening. Okay, the brain learns language by imitating someone. Being exposed to the language and having the need to communicate themselves. Right. Thank you. There are 3 and you are more than 40 people in the class. Could you please share your ideas? Okay, we're having the chat. Miss Inés says receiving more input. Right. What else? Okay, my point of view, the brain learns a new language by listening and repeating the words. The word it hears, around it, just as it learns our native language, right? Full immersion. Anyone else? We can learn, sorry, in the chat there says, we can learn with different methodologies, is that a method? And a lot of discipline. Okay, thank you. Okay, I can see some people writing. What about any theory or approach? I don't know if here we have any, okay, is there any colleague? I mean, you have already studied the career, right? And what we checked at university, which actually the theoretical information, right? What about theories? Have you ever heard about any of these theory, or do you know any of them? Or do you know the names of these people? I mean, the ones that years ago started studying this. Let me together. The brain learns the second language by imitation or repetition. Okay. No more. Okay, there is another one from Mercedes. The brain has many mechanisms to learn that are helped by, I suppose, right? The social thinking, self-management skills, among others. Okay. Thank you. Let me check the chat. Don't remember, says Ceci. Yeah. Because actually, when we're studying at university, for example, before I was studying, I decided to start studying education, and I was studying translation and interpretation. There were many of the researchers, actually, the way we learn a language. And believe me, I don't know if there is any translator here in this class, but that's a really huge result for us as a teacher of a language, of a different language. To be honest, I consider that career really helped me a lot, because it gives you a different background, and in a very important background, by the way. Okay. Good morning, Angelica. How are you? Okay, Anderson says, I think by listening others produce the language at primary stages of the life, and then by being exposed to the language in a more complex use. Thank you. Again, nobody else. Oh, no, there are some people writing also in the Padlet. I will send the link again, because some participants just enter. So a couple of minutes, and then we will continue. Send your answers, please. Okay. Hello, Rosa. How are you? Karina says in the chat, I think listening and repeat are the best way to learn. Hello, how are you? Great. There are more ideas over here. The brain begins to understand reality with the new information and tries to link it to learning. Juan Diego, thank you. Speaking, watching is probably supposed to writing. No, I'm reading, learning a new language enlarges the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for long-term memory. Yes, we're talking about brains. There are different areas, but actually, but probably no, I suppose not. To make it more complex, if I mention on the anatomical parts, okay, because when you learn, remember when I introduced myself, I made a course in Buenos Aires University, and actually was from the medicine faculty, and I had all this input from the anatomy, right, and all these kind of medicine names and so on, okay, which is really interesting, really interesting. I know if you are into that, I recommend you take courses, okay, going into the, okay, we are kind of the world of letters, I mean, or social studies, teaching a language, communicational skills, but knowing also that part of science, the anatomical part, okay, for brain neurons, so it's first, well, for me, it's exciting and it helps you learn a lot about human brain, about behavior, about cognition, and so on. The brain learns by listening and repeating the words. Thank you, Rosa. Okay, so there are many ideas. I didn't miss any of it, right? No more. Okay, so in general, you mentioned we can have common ideas, kind of repetition, imitation, right? Also immersion or input. Okay, some of you mentioned this important part of the brains. Yeah, there are these areas like the hippocampus and others actually. And for that reason, the importance of the ages, right? Because brain develops differently at any stage of life, right? Great. Now, but nobody, sorry, in the chat, and Elia says, just social communication is very important in the process of learning a second language interchange. Vygotsky. So here we have a first name, okay, and that's who we're going to read about in a minute. I think best age, the children are games and they like activities of listening and speaking. Yeah, definitely the best way to learn a second language is when we're kids, right? What about your experiences? Okay, you are teachers of English now. When did you learn English? Can you share that in the chat here in Zoom? When did you learn English? How old were you when you started or when you finished learning English? Was it at school? Was it as an adult? Was it part of the university course, probably? How old were you? Were you a young learner or not really? Or your path of learning a language started where you were an adolescent or an adult? Okay, Miss Jenna says, when I was school, it was 12. Oh, Miss Aurora, repeat a little video. Yes, practice vocabulary. Clarissa says, I started to learn English at the age of 18 and now I'm 38 years old, right? So for example, in the case of Clarissa, I started as an adult, right? Totally different experience for now on. Kids actually started since babies. Rosa says it was a teenager when I was in high school, when I was 17. Okay, yeah, in my 20s. So probably majority says that, okay? 16, 17, 20s, okay? Some of you 11, 12 from school, no? When it was secondary public school. Yeah, Esther, thank you. What you mentioned is something true here in our country. What happens in Peru, in most of the schools, okay, or say schools, happens that they don't really get, or they don't have English classes, non-kindergarten and non in primary. They start while they are in high school, no? So most of us, or most of people here in Peru, start their their process of learning a second language since they are 12, 13 years old, because in most of schools occur that, okay? And other private schools, yeah, they usually start since kindergarten. So there is a very huge difference, no? There is a, well, different gaps we have in our society, but that continues occurring, at least in Peru, right? When learning a second language, it still happens. And there is a very, this is a gap, okay, in students, no? So most of us, or most of the people start learning while they are adults, and not really kids, yes? In the secondary level in our country, but yes, I read that. Okay, great class. So, yeah, so notice, no? For example, if we, because remember that our personal experience is something we can use when we are teaching. But what happens if we are teaching kids, we're teaching young learners, very young learners, but we have never had that experience, you know? We have never had the experience because we haven't started teaching at that age. You know? So the thing we do is what you are doing now, you know? Going into courses or learning or reading, getting more information, because something that we haven't experienced as a learner, right? Probably teaching adults might be, for some of you, for some of us, I know, a little bit easier, because yeah, that's the way I learn, you know, and we imitate also what our teacher did with us. I don't know if that happened to you, right? Or probably you don't notice, but it's there, okay, inside your brain. But what happens if we have never been learners as a kid and we are now teaching to little kids, right? We need other kind of input. It's like information, courses, no, and always getting and updated. Yes, great. I began to learn English when I was 12. I began learning in first grade primary school. Yes, I remember in my case, I don't know if it was kindergarten or primary, but yeah, also. Okay, great class. Nobody else, right? I just read all of this idea. Thank you very much. Let's continue. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, as I was also asking for the theories or the approaches, and some names came up, or only one name was Vygotsky, okay? This is what we have here. Look, okay? I think everyone is, yeah, right? Am I projecting correct? Okay, look, I want to show you some names of important people, we can say, or researchers that are in the field of language acquisition or language learning. Chomsky, Vygotsky, Oakville, Krashen, and Piaget. Vygotsky was mentioned some minutes ago, but do you know the rest of them? Have you heard about any of them? Probably some of them are more kind of famous or popular than others, right? Especially when talking about education. Yeah. Okay, let me check the chat. Krashen, yes. All of them except Krashen. Okay, and there are some probably we have more definitely. Okay, but the most important, for example, Chomsky is the one very related to linguistics, kind of the father of linguistics. I remember learning about Chomsky when I was studying translation and interpretation. And it's kind of a must, okay? Or if you study linguistics, like Chomsky, it's something you need to know, right? Probably while we go into the education one is Piaget, no? Something that we know a lot because we learn a lot. Here we have, yes, Vygotsky as well. Thank you, Rosa. Okay. We will see what they found out. Okay, just ago. Here we have in a minute. I will also show you a couple of videos. Well, okay, they're in Spanish, okay, but very important information about especially Vygotsky and Piaget, what we'll see during this lesson. Okay, but you have their names in case you want to profound on what they did, okay? Before we go into the these theories, and I also have been mentioning this, not the starting point when we started learning English and at the beginning of the class, and you said, or what we consider young learners, no? And you said like 3-4 years old when they are in kindergarten and so on. But okay, here we have this. Remember that the periods of life, well, we can divide different life stages since babies or newborns, right? And here we can include also the toddlers, right? Toddlers are considered 2 years old, 1.5 to 3 years old. young learners, adolescents, and then adults. Okay, the group of adults. When can we start learning a language? Is it possible, a second language? Is it possible to do it since babies? What would you say? Because we're talking about a second language. Yes, our mother tongue or our L1 occurs since baby, right? Since I don't know if you are here, we have mothers, fathers, but when we have our baby, we start talking to them, in this case in Spanish, right? But what about a second language? We will do it. Have you done it? Do you think it's correct to do it? Just different isolated questions. Yes, it's possible. It's possible. Yep. Yes. And why am I focusing on this? Because it's a part of the neuro myths. There are different myths related to the brain, and for that reason, neuroeducation appears to kind of disappear those myths. That there is not like a good age, or I mean exactly age to start learning a language, and this is not exactly when they are at school. We don't need to wait that long. Okay, we don't need to wait until our kids are 3-4 years old and they go to kindergarten. We don't need to wait they are 6 and so they go to primary school. Actually not. Okay, and we have, there is a very starting point, and it can be since babies are born. Okay, as the same way we learn our mother tongue, our L1, it can occur with a second language. So, for example, if you've got your family and you are already a teacher of English, or you manage the language, please take advantage of that and start teaching. I will put it like this. English is talking to babies in English, right? Actually, they hear you since they are in your belly, so imagine. Okay? And the neuromyth is that it's going to be confusing for them. Is it going to affect their Spanish learning? No. No. Okay, those are neuromyths, as I was telling. Okay, they are not getting confused. They are not having any problems while learning their mother tongue. No, it is not like that. Okay, so since very little, even before they start talking their mother tongue, they can start learning, okay, a second language. And of course, if there is a starting point, will there be an ending time? Okay, at any time when adults. You have mentioned your own experiences. Probably you started as in your 20s. I don't know if you have students. I remember once I had a student who was this is the oldest student I have had in these 12, almost 13 years of experience as a teacher of English. My oldest student, it was some years ago, like 5 years ago or more, he was 82 years old. 82. Imagine having a student coming to a classroom, okay, 82. And I remember that he went to my classes with his granddaughter. So it was kind of a really nice experience to have that is my oldest students in the class with his granddaughter. And he was there for learning English, and no, so there is, yes, a kind of surprises. I always remember him, and I always mention. And now that years after that, I learned about the brain and so all these things, plasticity and so on, I kind of remember of him, and yeah, I could notice that if they want, they can, right? So that was my oldest student, but I had them students who are or who were in their 60s, okay, 60s, 50s, and 70s. Yeah, I remember one. Okay, so there is not any time because, and thanks to the brain, actually. Okay, then obviously, before we go into the Vygotsky and the different theories and approaches, I think we need to have clear it's about these two terms, okay, acquisition and learning, or adquisición, aprendizaje. What's the difference, class? Would you write it in the chat? What exactly is to acquire a language and what is to learn a language? What will be the difference? In which moments of our lives do we do any of them? Is there one more important than the other? What would you say? Please share your ideas in the chat. What do you know about acquisition and what do you know about learning? Differences, probably ages. Would you consider one is more important than the other? How do we do it? I'll give you some minutes for you to share your ideas in chat, please. Okay, Clarissa says acquisition, it's unconsciously, and learning is consciously. Thank you. Some other ideas? What about the ages? Is there an age for acquiring a language? Is there an age for learning a language? What would you say? Any of them happens before the other? What about the rest? At this age, you can only acquire, and at this age, you can only learn. What do you say? I'm sorry, I didn't see your comment. Angelica, it's possible. Remember, Piaget stated about the learning process, sensory preparation. Yeah, related to learning second language too. Yes. Connie, thank you. Acquirement to learn it deeply, but sounds like more of keeping that for a long time. Yeah. Thank you. Well, please, there are more than 50 teachers here. Will you keep writing your ideas? Sissy says, now with the advances of neuroscience, it is discovered that we always learn all our lives. Right. Yes. Yes. Great. Okay, you said it all. Okay. Both are processes. Okay, and the variation is how this process is made. Okay. Subconsciente, consciente. When we notice, we don't notice. Okay. Sorry, Juan Diego just wrote in the chat. Learning is a conscious process. Yes, because the person knows that they are studying a language. Right. We can say, and that's what I also told you at the beginning of the session, right? Is a learner the only goes to formal education. Like you go to a classroom, you've got a teacher, or you go to an institute to study the language, right? You buy books, you buy material. Okay, that's Juan Diego says. You know, or you probably take that decision, maybe if you're an adult, to study that language. And in the case of acquisition, okay, it's more unconscious because the child does not know that they're studying a language. Exactly. Okay, but sorry, I missed a minute. Yeah, but rather learns it through the natural interaction that occurs with the adult caregivers. Great, that's great. Thank you, Juan. You said it all. You said it all. That is, okay? Acquisition is natural, but yes, learning is, it says asistido and recíproco. Acquisition is something natural, learning. Conscious process and acquisition, yes, okay, how it occurs. So, learning is that you generally have a teacher, okay, you have material, you have different resources, or you go to school, you go to an institute, as I said. In the case of acquisition, it's the way we learn our L1, our mother tongue, in this case Spanish, right? I guess everyone has a Spanish probably at the first language. Yes. Okay, class, if I ask you, how do you learn Spanish? How do you learn your mother tongue? Did you go to school to learn that? If I ask you, this is a question, okay? Did you go to school to learn Spanish? What will you say? Yes, no, or it depends? Because this is connected to what we're going to see also in the next slides. I learned from my parents my first words. Yeah. My first words. Okay, that's important thing from my parents, from my family, right? My first words. No? So that we will say speaking. But what about what Valeria says, which is great? What about the rules and the grammar? Does it come from our parents as well? Or, yeah, no, right? From school. And then we have our teachers and our communication classes or language classes and so on. So if that comes from school, exactly. So if I repeat the question, where do you learn your mother tongue or where do you learn Spanish? Okay, we will say, okay, this I learned it from my parents, or I learned it when I was at home, I was a little kid. But this other thing, I learned it from school, from a teacher, from a language cousins, and so on, right? So we can see that actually these two processes of acquisition and learning complement each other, right? It's not one more important than the other. No, because there are moments for each of them. Okay? Yes, as Ms. Diana says, acquisition is a natural way. It's more grateful for students. Yes. Okay, it's the same way. And use this, for example, what I do with my adult students, and when they are struggling, okay, with different topics related, for example, listening. I know if you agree with me, but listening is one of the most difficult skills of any language, right? And when I have my adults learners or students, I mention them. I had teach very quickly about this, so they know and they can understand first their own brains and their own process of learning or acquisition, and say, okay, listening is not as easy as you thought, okay, or you probably consider the most difficult part, because you are not a kid anymore, right? And you are not acquiring this, you need to learn it. And that's a little bit more complex, because as you mentioned, acquiring is more natural, okay, but learning, no. So, and that is the reason adults probably suffer, okay, in some specific things, or grammar or pronunciation, even pronunciation, right? Some phonemes are difficult to pronounce in English. Why is it more difficult to pronounce some phonemes as an adult, like if you're a kid? Because phonemes, or some phonemes in English, don't exist in Spanish, right? They don't exist in our language. So if they don't exist in our language, we have never heard it before, we have never practiced it before. And now that I am an adult, probably, for me, it's going to be really difficult to try to learn that phoneme, the typical with a TH, no? When we say three, thing, foot, right? I noticed that from my students. It's the most difficult one of the most difficult to pronounce. But if you teach to kids, they do it like this, right? But adults have a problem, no? And they will say think, no? I think, okay? The number 3, no? Okay, why? Because that phoneme, actually, I repeat, doesn't exist in our language, and they are started to learn them as they are adults. So it's not a natural way that they will get it. Mouth, yes, no? Should be mouth, but the people mouth. Okay, and it's not because this is bad student. He never learns. He never practices. No, let's have in mind that, okay, that brain hasn't acquired it. That brain is learning. Okay, and it will definitely be more complex. Okay, and we need other factors. We need extra practice, motivation, good pronunciation resource, no, so I can imitate it correctly. But what happens if that adult gets the example from a person that it doesn't pronounce as well? So we continue the same problem, right? So that is that. The thing, sorry, Connie says, I taught a 7-year-old kid and they learn so quickly. Yes, kids learn fast. For that reason, we say they learn fast. Because actually they are acquiring the language in a natural way, okay, as we did. Now, if I ask you how we learn Spanish, your first words, now when you start saying mama, papa, I don't know, you did it fast and you didn't go to school. You were just at home with parents, listening all the time. Yes? And that is to be with actually these skills. We know the 4 skills in the language, right? Speaking, writing, listening, and reading. So as we're talking about acquisition and learning, and we notice that we are complementing, which 2 skills we get from acquisition? Which 2 skills we get from acquisition? Let me check the chat. It says maybe it's the second we need to learn. Yes, definitely. Okay, yeah, so from these the 4 skills, which of them are, thank you, Clarissa. Yes, which of them are learned from acquisition, listening, and speaking? okay? Because we do it in this natural way, with what you mentioned, with input, with immersion, my parents talking to me, and probably not only my parents, the television, right? Okay, people on streets, yes. Um, that means that writing and reading will come up as process of learning, okay? So that is a, we need to, like, why it's important to know this, especially when we teach kids, because this will reflect on, for example, the methodologies we use, the materials we use with them, the books we use with them, all different resources we use with them. If we don't have this clear, then our teaching practice will be affected. And believe me that this happens, and not because I am telling this, I'm telling this to you. There are different studies. Okay, there is one study that British Council in a university from the US, no, from the UK, the Nile, they did in 2017 in Peru. Okay, I will find my document to share with you in the classroom, in the Google Classroom, or the following sessions. There is a study with Peruvian teachers in Peruvian schools, okay, back in 2017. Not only in Lima, it was in different parts of our country. And they were observing teachers. The idea was to investigate how kids learn English in Peru. And they found out that many teachers didn't know about this. How? Because, for example, they visited one classroom, one kindergarten classroom. They were 4 years old. And the material they were using and the methodology the teacher was using in that part of the investigation was not according to their age, was not according to this acquisition and learning process. Okay, so this happens. This happens. Okay, unfortunately, it continues happening. You will notice. I know with your own kids, if you got son or daughters, you will probably notice this at school or in other parts of our country. We know that there are other factors that definitely affect, but this is stuff with teachers. So, for example, if I'm going to teach 4-year-olds and I need to use a book, or I am writing words on the board, I should know that won't work because they cannot read, right? They cannot read yet. So, no, if I made them write copy, no, so I know parts of the face, no, and I write eyes. Okay, copy eyes. No, okay, because I'm just avoiding this. Okay, so for that reason it's important to know how we get this skills in our life. Okay. This input theory or teoría del input, who said it? Who studied it? This is from Krashen. Okay, Stephen Krashen is the one who came up with this input theory, and actually you mentioned at the beginning of the session. Okay, as the name says, okay, we learn a language, or in this case, second language, from what we hear, what we read. Okay, immersion. Okay, immersion. That happens in the case of learning our first language. Okay, we didn't go to school when we were 1 year old or 2 years old. Okay, just when we were hearing our parents, our mother. An interesting fact, class. Neuroscience, actually the psycholinguistic, which I love, discovered, okay, that the way of learning or acquiring a language when we are little kids, okay, is reflected on the interaction between the mother and the son or the daughter. Okay, the mother. Well, what happened with the father is not important. No. I'm not saying that. Okay, this is what not neuroscience is saying, actually. Okay, because it comes from part of the brain, the psycholinguistics, and the etc. Okay, it weighs more on what the mother or how the mother interacts with your kids. You will probably notice that in general situation, not only English, but also on the first language, Spanish. Have you noticed that there are many kids that they are 3 years old and they don't speak? Not English, Spanish. or they are 2 years and a half and they don't speak Spanish, or they have problems while speaking. Have you noticed? Probably, I know if your families, but some friends or even at school or where you work, okay, that we have kids that they don't speak Spanish or they have problems speaking Spanish, okay, and they are already 2-3 years old. Yeah, and that is where comes, okay, yes, you say yes. There comes the famous terapeutas del lenguaje, no? And mothers, I necesito un terapeuta del lenguaje, please, can you recommend us, no? Unfortunately, that happens. Why? And when you go into that families, well, I do it as because as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I am also a educator in positive discipline. So when I work with families and I go into the families, what happens? That kid is alone because mother works all time. So who is he or she interacting with? Okay, probably she has got old person there, okay, but mom or the mother is not there the amount of time the brain or that girl or that boy needs. And most of the problems of this language thing with kids is because mother is not there for any reason, okay? Or the moment the mother is there, probably the mother is always there at home, but it's not interacting with the kid. If you are not talking to the kid, talking, okay? I mean, you need to look into the eyes, you need to have conversation and so on, because you are with mobile phones, the kid is with mobile phones, YouTube, and you are not really making a real interaction, but you are home. Huh? The kid is not learning. Okay, so that's I put it like in parentheses from what we have from evidence in neuroscience or in psycholinguistics. Okay, and the same occurs with this. That's what input says. Okay, so of course, yeah, you need these therapies of language, but the first thing comes from home. Okay, and it's not that we are saying again this is science, and you can just go and Google documents and find all the. This is what I learned in my master. I remember, and when I learned it, it was like you in the chat. You have put it surprising faces or emojis. When I was studying this, and I was the mother of my second child, it was like, oh, and I opened it because yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so I haven't only read the theory or okay of the science, but I also prove it as a mother because as I told you, it's mother. So that's a huge problem. Yes, but who knows that in our country, in our families, in our education system? Only the ones who get updated with science. Okay, so this is it. But what we hear, what we read, of course, we should focus that input becomes in a in a good way. I mean, good resources in all aspects, right? Pronunciation, grammar, etc. Here we have the little examples that kids get their input in this more natural way with video games. No, when they are in the year 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they are full of video games. They should be getting English from there. So, for example, if you got your students or someone in your family, all the recommendation I give to my kids and their parents is, okay, you love playing, I know, Minecraft or Roblox or I know, these kind of games, do it in English. Go to the settings thing and put that game in English, okay? That is the input. That is the natural way. Okay, what they like, or if they watch YouTube videos, no, okay, in English. Yes, that is the best way. Also, as it also works for adults. You can tell your adults, students or learners, okay, you use your mobile phone every single minute. You check your WhatsApp, you check your emails, you check everything all the time. Is your mobile phone in English or Spanish? And most of them say, it's a Spanish, teacher. Why? Go to the settings and put it in English. Everything. Your social network, your mails, everything. Follow TikTok accounts, Instagram accounts, but follow them in English. Okay, because that is something that they use a lot. Music. They start learning music. Oh, sorry, they start learning English because of music, even kids, right? the alphabet sound. So different resources because it comes from the input, but then we do it in a natural way. If we say, okay, have this grammar book and start learning the grammar from the book. Okay, I'll get this vocabulary book and start studying 5 words each day. That doesn't work for the brain. Okay, we should keep in mind that input should be in this natural way, and especially with things that they love. And with kids, easier, definitely. No, with games, video games. Okay, they start. Okay, they are getting in a natural way. Okay, what else? Here, as you already mentioned, teoría sociocultural desarrollo cognitivo, which is actually Vygotsky theory. Yes? Okay. What is this? The scaffolding. Well, you put the image there in Spanish, but what he says, and we will watch video to have this clearer, but is in few words. Okay, it's a process when other helps or one person helps others to learn. Okay, this can be the role of a teacher. This can be the role of parents. Okay, this can be the role of friends and other ones. Okay, because for that reason, it says social cultural. It can be the social way. Yes, and we start like here. Okay, the orange or yellow part, something that I don't know to do yet, to come into that green part, which I can do it, but with some help. And that help is my teacher or my book or my classes, no? Or my parents, with the final objective or goal to get into the blue area, which is the things I can do alone. Okay? So it's like going from the outside, the orange one, to the inside. Okay? Getting something I don't know, getting the help, the necessary help, the appropriate help, okay, to go into the ones that I can now do alone. Okay, this is what teachers would be, right? Because we have our group of students. Okay, these are the goals. This student doesn't know this. I am there to help, to guide. And then this student, we know that everything worked when this student can now do it alone, right? This is when is our best proof that everything worked. Okay, so to know this, we have a video. Give me a second. Full interaction. What Angelica says, exactly, full interaction, and that's what we also discussing, that we learn our language because we were interacting with our parents. And now I told you the interaction with mother, which actually the ones that affect for learning the language when we are little kids. Okay, let's see this video. It's I think 5 minutes. Okay, you can take notes of that. Do not worry if you don't take the link. Remember that this PPT will be in the Google Classroom and you will have this link. Okay, so give me a sec. I already have this open. The video is in Spanish. Okay, because I found the resource in Spanish, but I think there is also one in English. Give me a sec. Let me share the sound first. Put it bigger. Okay, so let's watch it.
La teoría del desarrollo social de Vygotsky sostiene que la comunidad y el lenguaje juegan un papel central en el aprendizaje. Si bien Jean Piaget concluyó que el desarrollo cognitivo de los niños ocurre en etapas, Vygotsky rechazó sus ideas y creía que los niños se desarrollan independientemente de etapas específicas como resultado de las interacciones sociales. Vygotsky afirmó que nacemos con 4 funciones mentales elementales: atención, sensación, percepción y memoria. Es nuestro entorno social y cultural el que nos permite utilizar estas habilidades elementales para desarrollar y finalmente obtener funciones mentales superiores. Este desarrollo ocurre idealmente en la zona de desarrollo próximo. Primero está lo que podemos hacer por nuestra cuenta. Luego está la zona de desarrollo próximo, que representa lo que podemos hacer con la ayuda de un adulto, un amigo, la tecnología o lo que Vygotsky llamó el otro más conocedor. Por último, está lo que está más allá de nuestro alcance. Para ilustrar esto, pensemos en gemelos que se crían en una comunidad en la que se espera que los niños aprendan y tengan éxito, mientras que se espera que las niñas solo sean bonitas. A la edad de 10 meses, ambos tienen la capacidad de gatear y se encuentran en la zona de desarrollo próximo para aprender a pararse. El otro más conocedor, en este caso el padre, le brinda al niño oportunidades para practicar en una sala de juegos que ha equipado con andamios y otros objetos. Se anima al niño a explorar el equipo y, finalmente, lo usa para levantarse. Unas horas más tarde está navegando por las estructuras y unos días después está de pie. La niña también tiene el potencial para ponerse de pie, pero no recibe apoyo alguno para aprender la habilidad. Cuando comparamos los dos, vemos que, mientras la niña todavía está tratando de levantarse, el niño se ha movido a una nueva zona, sabe cómo mantener el equilibrio mientras está de pie y ahora tiene el potencial de aprender a caminar. Ambos eventualmente aprenderán a caminar, pero, según Vygotsky, el niño será más hábil. Los mismos principios se aplican a todo el aprendizaje y al desarrollo de funciones cognitivas superiores. Y solo aquellos que aprenden con la ayuda de un mentor capaz pueden alcanzar el máximo potencial de su capacidad. Vygotsky, por lo tanto, creía que dentro de la zona de desarrollo próximo, el aprendizaje puede preceder al desarrollo, lo que significa que un niño puede aprender habilidades que van más allá de su madurez natural. También estableció una conexión explícita entre el habla y los conceptos mentales, argumentando que el habla interior se desarrolla a partir del habla externa, a través de un proceso gradual de internalización. Esto significa que el pensamiento mismo se desarrolla como resultado de la conversación. Por lo tanto, los niños más pequeños que no terminan este proceso solo pueden pensar en voz alta. Una vez que se complete el proceso, el habla interior y el lenguaje hablado se vuelven independientes. Lev Vygotsky murió de tuberculosis en 1934, a la edad de 37 años. A pesar de su corta edad, se convirtió en uno de los psicólogos más influyentes del siglo XX. Dejó el siguiente consejo para los educadores. Al darles a los estudiantes práctica de hablar con otros, les damos marcos para pensar por sí mismos. ¿Qué piensas? ¿Puede un niño aprender algo independientemente de los requisitos previos de desarrollo? ¿Y aprendemos solo a través de contextos sociales y culturales? Y si es así, ¿crees que es apropiado que un otro más conocedor determine qué debe aprender un niño a continuación? Comparte tus pensamientos en los comentarios a continuación.
Okay. Any ideas you would like to share? We are mentors, as this says. Yes, that is. Actually, that is our job, our profession, our vocation. Yes, to help, to guide, okay, others. What you also, Angelica, put here in the chat, what students can do with others. Help. Yes, and we're starting as our role as a teacher, but then inside class, for that reason, also important when they work in groups, they teach each other, and this is related to the best way we learn is when we teach. The best way we learn something is when we teach. Okay, so that also it's important that we encourage our students, depending on their age, of course, to teach others, okay, their classmates, because they are learning even more. Okay, so that's what Vygotsky sorry, explained, okay, with his theory. And would you say if Do you think that, yeah, like that? Do you agree? Do you use it? We're probably empirical using, no? There are some questions at the end of the lesson for you to discuss about it. Okay? Oh, yeah, sorry. About this theory. Let's move forward. This is the communicative approach or enfoque comunicativo, which actually I included because not to make it distant from our educative reality in Peru. This comes to or from the different normatives we have here from the Ministry of Education. You know, if you work at school, so I know how many teachers from school we have here. This is the approach we should use at school. Okay. And sorry, they're in the chat, to elevate our students to the next level of their learning. Yes, that is the famous pyramid. I don't know if you have checked. If we can show it to you next lessons. Okay, the pyramid of learning and teaching is the top one. Juan Diego says they learn with the social skills of their environment. Yes, any environment. So home is the first one, right? And that comes, okay, the different social groups, school, kinder, and so on. Okay. All right, class. Thank you for your ideas, for your comments. Now, this approach that I was saying, important to check because this is that we teachers should put in practice and they're every day at school. As I told you, this is what the Ministry of the Education says. Okay, should be put into the classrooms. Okay, at schools here in Peru. But this is I don't know if it's clear for all teachers or all directors from principals from schools, because it has got, let me check if I included it on this. Okay, it has got some important characteristics to keep in mind. Okay, this communicative approach first starts from everyday situations. Okay, I mean, talking in a natural way, everyday situations, since say the famous moments of, can I go to toilet, right? Which is actually very common. Okay, it should be done in English, right? Or if they're older, probably if they are 11, 10 years old, and kids want to talk about what they did during the weekend, I don't know. Okay, let's make them talk, but in English, right? So situations that are very common, and it says in our everyday life, okay, we should use it as a part of the learning process. No, for example, what is happening these days in our country? The football match, no, and all this controversial situation between the football match we had some couple of days ago. Okay, probably a little bit controversial, but it's something that everyone is talking about. So we can use that topic to make the, or if kids are talking about, now talking about kids from 10, 11, 12, probably, to use and to teach them vocabulary or the different parts of a stadium, I don't know, or even values, because we know the problems that happen, okay, during this football match. And we can even use this extracurricular topic about values to use it in our classes and use it in English. Okay, I remember when I was teaching this same topic in the middle of the pandemic. No, so our everyday life was virus, 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 virus. Okay, COVID, COVID, COVID 20 times. Okay, all day. And I don't know if that happened to you if you were teaching during the pandemic situation, but happened to me that when I asked my students, okay, can you tell me what's the meaning of COVID? The students were just silent. No, because I told you, okay, COVID, yeah, it's a word, but actually it's an acronym, no? COVID. And when I used to ask that question to students, probably not that little kids, no, even a little bit high school, for example, they didn't know. Okay, and why is that? COVID is a word that comes in English. It's in English, right? It's in English. And why it was not something common, an everyday situation? Everyone around the world was talking about that. How was it possible that teenagers didn't know that the word COVID first was in English and then the meaning of them? No? because they were losing those moments, okay, of learning in very common situations. They didn't even know some common words we use at the moment of the pandemic, or talking about social network. Happened to me that, no, teenager kids, teacher, how to say compartir in English? It's of course a valid question, but if you think deeper, compartir is an internet word or not? Compartir is social network vocabulary, and kids use, or teenagers use, lots of this. And you ask, I remember asking myself, okay, they know everything on the internet, they use a lot of this, and they don't know how to say compartir in English. No. Okay. So why is that? What is that happening? Because all this, first, the input they are not getting in English, and second, we are not taking advantage of this communicative approach. Okay, because as they are in with any kind of topic, okay, we should take that into, in advantage, so they start gaining vocabulary, verbs, words, short phrases, okay, and not only our language, okay, as a class of English, language, but also, as I mentioned, values, etc., etc. No, if we're talking about sports, I know we're teaching sports during this topic, during this semester, this week, etc. And just secure the Pan American Games, in Santiago. Okay, that's the best way to use something that everyone's talking, that is on the news, that we have all, there is already input. We can use that into provoke moments of interaction, and kids start talking. Okay. Then of course it should be student centered. That's what I'm telling you. Things that topics that they are into, that they like, that they are using, or that they can see every day. Yeah? Should be student centered. This promotes intrinsic motivation, definitely, because if they feel motivated, that in class, or that my teacher is talking about something I like, that the teacher knows my interests, video games, football match, or any other things, okay, that is also helping with motivation. Remember, motivation is the key for learning, because associated with the emotional area of the brain, etc. Remember, a brain without emotions doesn't learn. Don't forget that. Okay, a brain without emotions doesn't learn. Okay, of course, should be emotions that completely opposite to the stressful ones. Okay, but we need to get, okay, we need to encourage motivation over classes, and not only what I do as a teacher. I can motivate all the things now, but they should start feel motivated, and that comes with a communicative approach. Okay? And then you will notice teaching English using social networks. Yes, that's what kids are on now. And this definitely will be more interaction, because sometimes happens now that, okay, we need to use the communicative approach in our classes because the idea of a language is to communicate, right? For that reason we're learning. But something happens, the teacher is like all time, and this is something to do with a positive discipline in classrooms. Silence, don't make noise, don't talk with partners, okay? Raise your hands, okay? Nobody speaks now. And what about the communicative approach? If we want them to communicate, right? So there is kind of ironic sometimes, because it is that they talk, they speak, of course, respecting the moments when they have to do it. But if we're always like, or if they are talking and they make mistakes, how we as teachers react to their mistakes will mark their intention to continue practicing or not. So it's highly important, and that is something, as I told you, related to the classroom management, to the positive discipline in class. Okay, for example, something I do with when I teach kids, and that will definitely happen, that they've probably finished copying, and they start talking with a friend. Okay, you can talk don't raise your voice, but do it in English. If you want to talk, perfect, but in English. And they have two options. Or they do it in English or they are in silent. So both options work for me, work for the class. Okay? So let's not like punish them and say, don't talk, be in silence. No, okay, if you want to talk, please, just don't raise your voice, but do it in English. I can let you talk about anything, but in English. Okay? And you will have two responses, as I told you. Or they become silent, or they practice your language. Okay? But that's the idea of this approach, to make them interact between them, with us. Okay? Let's just don't punish them because they won't feel confident, and that affects motivation, and they will finish or they will end up hating our language or our class. The second theory we are checking here is the cognitive development, and this is from Piaget, right? As you also mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, and I think you checked this on the previous class, no? You did a Padlet where you have the different areas. No, you did it where, yeah, because I remember that was my Padlet, the emotional, the cognitive, etc. But actually, when talking about the cognitive development from Piaget, is dividing life stages, you know, within period of years. No, from birth to the 2 years, from 2 to 7, from 7 to 12, and 12 years onward. Okay, Piaget gave them a name: the sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. As I told you, Piaget is something that we must know as educators. We definitely studied this at university, we remember. Okay, it happened years ago or many years ago. It's part of the actually psychology of learning, no? So it's kind of a must to know this. Okay, and even more important, the stages. Okay, because okay, I can be a teacher of young learners. Yeah, I teach young learners, but will be the same if I teach a student from first grade of primary or second grade of primary if I teach to student from 5th or 6th grade of primary school. Definitely not. They are all young learners, yes, but they are on different life stages. And that is highly important to know that's different. Okay, now this is what, now, as I told you, neuroeducation is helping us to distinguish, to learn about them, to understand them. Because as much as we know about their brains, about their processes, because something biological, neurological, psychological, etc. It's nothing to do with that, with your parents. Well, there is an affection, but I won't go into that. But that will depend on how well they learn. Okay, as I mentioned with this investigation the British Council did in Peru, no, how the schools work, what about the materials we use, what about the evaluation. Okay, we work with these students. Okay, and notice there are different areas. Okay, so that, yeah, once again, they are all young learners, but they are not learning the same way because their brain are not processing the same way. Yes, and there is also a video over here. I will show you. I think we want to have time. Probably a bit. I will show you if the same way as the Vygotsky, but this is about the well, Piaget. It's a bit long, but I will try to close it before.
La teoría de Piaget argumenta que tenemos que conquistar 4 etapas de desarrollo cognitivo. Primero, la etapa sensorio-motriz. Segundo, la etapa preoperacional. Tercero, la etapa de operaciones concretas. Y cuarto, la etapa de operaciones formales. Solo una vez que hemos pasado por todas las etapas, lo cual puede variar en edad, podemos alcanzar la inteligencia humana completa. 1. La etapa sensorio-motriz, de 0 a 2 años. En la etapa sensorio-motriz desarrollamos a través de experiencia y movimientos nuestros 5 sentidos. Nuestro cerebro quiere ver, escuchar, oler, saborear y tocar tanto como sea posible. Primero, comenzamos con reflejos simples y poco después desarrollamos nuestros primeros hábitos. A partir de los 4 meses nos damos cuenta de las cosas más allá de nuestro propio cuerpo y luego, a medida que envejecemos, aprendemos a hacer cosas intencionalmente. Un hito clave es el desarrollo de la memoria de trabajo, o en términos de Piaget, nuestra realización de la permanencia de los objetos. Antes de eso, nuestra madre puede mostrarnos y luego esconder un peluche y pensaríamos que ha desaparecido. Después, entendemos que los objetos continúan existiendo, incluso cuando no podemos verlos. Comenzamos a sentir curiosidad por todo. Queremos oler flores, probar comida, escuchar sonidos y hablar con extraños. Para explorar más, nos movemos. Aprendemos a sentarnos, gatear, pararnos, caminar e incluso correr. Este aumento de la movilidad física, en consecuencia, conduce a un mayor desarrollo cognitivo. Pero seguimos siendo egocéntricos, lo que significa que podemos percibir el mundo solo desde nuestro propio punto de vista. 2. La etapa preoperacional, de 2 a 7 años. Nuestro pensamiento se clasifica principalmente a través de funciones simbólicas y pensamientos intuitivos. Tenemos muchas fantasías y creemos que los objetos están vivos. Como no somos capaces de aplicar operaciones cognitivas específicas, Piaget llamó a esta etapa preoperacional. Aprendemos a hablar y entender que las palabras, las imágenes y los gestos son símbolos de otras cosas. Cuando dibujamos a nuestra familia, no nos preocupa dibujar a cada persona a escala, sino más bien con sus significados simbólicos. Nos encanta jugar a simular, lo que nos permite experimentar algo nuevo y aprender mucho. Alrededor de los 4 años, la mayoría de nosotros nos volvemos muy curiosos y hacemos muchas preguntas. Queremos saberlo todo. Podemos llamarlo el nacimiento del razonamiento primitivo. Piaget lo llamó la edad intuitiva, porque si bien nos damos cuenta de que tenemos una gran cantidad de conocimiento, no tenemos idea de cómo lo adquirimos. Nuestro pensamiento en esta etapa sigue siendo bastante egocéntrico. Creemos que otros ven el mundo como nosotros y aún no entendemos que lo ven de manera diferente. 3. La etapa de operaciones concretas, de 7 a 11 años. Finalmente descubrimos la lógica y desarrollamos operaciones cognitivas concretas, como ordenar objetos en un cierto orden. Un ejemplo de esto es el razonamiento inductivo, lo que significa que si vemos a alguien comiendo una galleta, podemos sacar una conclusión y luego hacer una generalización. Y ahora tenemos el concepto de conservación. Entendemos que si vertimos jugo de naranja de un vaso normal a uno más alto, la cantidad se mantiene igual. Nuestra hermana menor escogerá el vaso más alto, pensando que ella obtiene más. Por la misma lógica, solo ahora podemos entender que si 3 más 5 es 8, entonces 8 menos 3 debe ser igual a 5. Nuestro cerebro aprende a reorganizar nuestros pensamientos, a clasificar y a construir estructuras mentales operativas concretas. Por ejemplo, ahora sabemos que podemos revertir una acción haciendo lo contrario. Emocionados por nuestras nuevas habilidades mentales, las aplicamos en conversaciones, actividades, cuando aprendemos a escribir y en la escuela. Como resultado, nos conocemos mejor. Comenzamos a comprender que nuestros pensamientos y sentimientos son únicos y no son necesariamente los de los demás. Eso significa que aprendemos a ponernos en los zapatos de otras personas. Cuarto, la etapa de operaciones formales de 12 años en adelante.
Okay, I will stop here as it is longer and this phase starts, the last part of young learning, so we can consider it, okay, from 12-year-old on forward. But remember, you can watch this video when I submit it in the Google Classroom. You have the link, okay, so you finish with that part, but you already saw. But the young learners, give me a sec to go back to the PowerPoint so we can start finishing here. Okay. I don't know if you have any comments, you can share them in the chat. About Piaget, as I told you, we can be more familiarized with that, right? Interesting videos. Thank you. Yeah, they're good. I see this browser also have the English version. I'm trying to find it and try to also include it in the link. Yes. Well, actually, what occurred? Give me a second. Thinking. When we have time to do the discussion in groups, okay. But here you have like a summary. Yeah, the Piaget stages of cognitive development. What actually explained the video. Okay, and the age range and what happens. Yes, important for you to, or for us to know. Okay, for general knowledge. Actually, this is something that everyone who works or who are in care of kids, okay, it's something we should know. Not only teachers, but also parents. Namely that when I work with families, I also show this to them, explain them, because we need to once again understand, learn about them. Now, how can we help something if we don't know how it works? Okay, um, so it's important that every adult that is involved with kids, okay, as a parent, psychologist, a teacher, etc., knows a bit of this. Okay, so you have the important ideas, okay, like a summary, the coordination of senses, motor responses, language used for demands and cataloging. Okay, in the second stage, symbolic thinking. For that reason, no, at this part of our lives, the symbolic games, okay, or play, it's important. Okay, and usually comes a role play as well, because the brain is ready for that. Okay, so there is always a reason, okay, which resource methodology, etc., to use, because we are going according to what the brain, how the brain is developing. Imagination, intuition at this time is important. Concrete operation, also primary school. No, primary school will be considered when they start getting to more concrete situations, time, space, quantity. Again, no, it's important to know, for example, how when the time, space, quantity are understood. Okay, because if I'm planning to teach little kids, no, the days of the week, okay, they probably know by memory Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but they don't really know, no, or they don't really understand because their brains are not ready. No? Also, we talk about today, yesterday, tomorrow. Okay, probably they memorize the word, but they are not really, and they don't really have the concept because they are too young, or their brains are too young to understand the time space orientation. Right? That sometimes happens. Or I notice teacher, yeah, that's yesterday, and the kid is, huh? No, what are you talking about? Okay, what's yesterday? I know the word yesterday, but I don't really know the concept because again, the brains are not prepared according to the time space orientation. So everything is connected. Okay, everything is connected. And then again, high school will be the theoretical, hypothetical, the abstract logic, reasoning. Okay, and for that reason, the way we teach them, the way we learn should also be different. Okay. What else? Okay, about that. This is again the same. Okay, you have it in Spanish, but it's just what I just told you. You have this like a short rough design, and I think we finish with this. Okay. Sorry, in the chat you're asking about the attendance. I guess it's in the chat. Thank you, Ziz. It says on the WhatsApp group. Yeah, the EduRed team will send you the attendance link there, right? Okay, you also checked the previous lesson, some tips. Okay, probably some of them are repetitive, some of them will be new, but I'm playing it in the classroom. You will probably already do this. The concrete perhaps visual aids whenever possible at this age. You know? Make an instruction relatively short, using action as were the commands. No, if their brain are developing, they don't understand this concept situation. As I told you with the different, with the example of yesterday, today, tomorrow. Okay, we need to adapt our instructions to them. Okay, or our question. If I ask them, what did you do yesterday? What did you do yesterday? Sorry, I'm probably it's a kid from I don't know 3 years old. Has not clear what yesterday is. Okay, Do not expect the students to constantly see the word from someone else's point of view. Yes, we will have many problems in our classes, okay? If our lesson plans doesn't consider all these aspects, okay? Because we won't find a reaction or a response from them because they're very young learners, or they are recently starting, okay, this thing of sympathy is empathy, okay, which is actually learning from other points of view, okay, they're in the process of that. And again, it comes because of a lack of information, that we think that now this student doesn't understand, or this student doesn't want to answer, or this student blah, blah, blah. We start to labeling it, him or her, but it's because their brain is not prepared for that yet, according to their age. Be sensitive to the possibility that students may have different meanings for the same words. It's talking about vocabulary, or different words for the same meaning. Yes. Okay. Context is important, and there is also a fun moment that happens with kids. Now that sometimes they ask questions with words that we as an adult, okay, have other concepts, or we can. I mentioned it because I have seen with some friends, some colleagues, and they kind of freak out. Oh my God, what is this kid asking me this question? No, or about this word, and we immediately associate it with other meaning, nothing to do with kids, but we are not thinking as a student or as a kid, and for him or her the concept was completely different. Okay, so when we teach kids or young learners, we should kind of change our minds, our chips, and try to think as them. Okay, and actually they are very wise, by the way. Give children a great deal of hands-on practice, yes, with the skills that serve as building blocks for more complex skills like reading comprehension. Yes, we are not exactly talking about skills. There is another course. I remember I did a course here with EduRed that was only focusing on skills, but all this has a reason. Again, if we are working, for example, with students from primary level, third grade, fourth grade, and we're about to do reading, we need to give them texts or reading exams, and we notice that there are huge problems of them. Well, for us, it's going to be really challenging because, okay, this is not a problem of now. This is a problem that comes from years or for months. Question for you: when you came back teaching after the pandemic, and if you had a student from 8 years old, 9 years old, didn't you have problems with them about reading or writing? Right. You probably have. We noticed that after these years of pandemic situation with not schools, etc. And we, as teacher of English, we go into our classroom and we notice that kids really had a lot of problems reading, writing. So imagine if they cannot read, well, reading comprehension is going to be even more difficult for them. Okay, and what's the reason? Me, I'm a teacher, you know what to do. My class, they don't understand, or these kids are terrible. No, we need to learn that the moment the brain was eager to learn reading and writing, they didn't have the correct input because they were through a screen. Nobody helped them. So it's a profound problem that now as teacher we are trying to manage. Okay, but the affection is there. Okay, and the language provide a wide range of experiences in order to build a foundation for constant learning and language. Yes, all experiences that will make them work, respecting their neurobiological development. Okay, all the stages we have checked, all the theories we have checked, and so on. Okay, that's how young learners we learn. Okay, and most importantly, we enjoy learning our language. Okay, or in our classes. These are two questions. I will let them in the Google Classroom class, okay, for you to discuss. Again, in Spanish or in English, I will put them in English and in Spanish, do not worry. You feel free to use any of them. Okay, in my teaching practice, do I apply any of these theories? Okay, all of them. How do you know that? Okay, why? How do you notice? And which is the significance of the importance to know, okay, these life stages, what we learned from Piaget, okay, when teaching young learners. Why is that important? Okay, we have already discussed, but you can please go into those answers in the Google Classroom, okay? So, oh, I did it on time. I hope I thought that I didn't have the time to finish. Great, class. So we will stop here. Yeah, let me stop sharing. This will be in the Google Classroom. Do not worry. Okay. Was a pleasure to meet you this class. Remember, I will be with you the other 2 lessons. Okay. And lessons, I suppose in an hour I will submit. Everything will be submitted in a Google Classroom. Okay. I just had the ask yesterday. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend. Please, any question, etc. You have the Google Classroom. You can just leave that. See you next Saturday. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Take care.